Welcome back. We are looking right now live at the scene in Washington, D.C. This right outside the National Action Network conference. This is significant because this is where the parents of the late Trayvon Martin have been attending a conference in addition to civil rights leaders, and they're expected to speak following the conclusion of the press conference that we just had you live in Jacksonville, Florida. It'll be interesting, their perspective, and let me bring in our table. And Dominic, I'm going to start with you. Second-degree murder, I mean, obviously the trial hasn't even started yet, but the penalty had sounded off that, hey, listen, this is important. Then you have the Department of Justice saying, hey, we'll investigate if there's a hate crime. But he made it clear earlier that the hate crime, at least the regular threshold, it didn't seem to be matching this particular case. Let's take a listen. Again, this was Eric Holder earlier.
If we find evidence of a potential federal criminal civil rights crime, we will take appropriate action. And at every step, the facts and the law will guide us forward.
Because there were so many different levels to this, they took this away, obviously, from the Sanford PD. The state got involved. The governor brought in the special prosecutor, and both sides were at least happy when she took the grand jury element, as our guest mentioned, off the table here. And they, you know, both defense and prosecution said, hey, it shows a little bit of independence and some guts here. You know, we'll see how their reaction to the charges tonight, but this is a whole lot of pressure on this person.
Well, there's a lot of pressure on a lot of people in this, but I think that, as Dominic said, tonight is a good night for one reason, is that what we've wanted all along is the truth and the facts to come out, and that process has now started. And regardless, none of us sitting at this table knew what happened that night. It's now up to 12 jurors, and I might add that because of the heat that has surrounded this entire thing, I would not want to be a juror sitting on this trial down in Florida. I feel bad.
Let's get some immediate reaction. I understand. Let's take this live. This is Reverend Al Sharpton, who's been very close with the family since the incident and this in our nation's capital.
We did not get this far. We would condemn them. We must say that despite the fact that we're of different political parties and different political persuasions, that tonight maybe America can come together and say that only the facts should matter when you're dealing with a loss of life. And I think that the prosecutor and I think that the governor did not make a decision based on public pressure, but I think they decided to review it based on public pressure. I think that they would not be irresponsible enough to proceed with a prosecution based on pressure. But had there not been pressure, there would not have been a second look. And I think that that credit should go to the nameless, faceless people, black, white, Latino, and Asian, all over this country that put hoods on and said, take another look at this, and that look has led to where we are tonight. They will attack the big names, and they will give credit to the big names. But it's the unknown people that took their time and money and stood up and said that that could be my son, that could be my grandson. And because of a second look, even conservatives on the other side of the political spectrum said, no, we're going to take a second look and do what is right. They've charged him with a serious crime. He deserves a fair trial. We do not want anybody high-fiving tonight. There's no victory here. There's no winners here. They've lost their son. This is not about gloating. This is about pursuing justice. We have not won anything. All we have done is establish that we must have the right to redress and justice in this country. So we will not be gloating around here. We are still mourning with this family. We will monitor the trial every step of the way. We will stand by and make sure that the rights of all are not violated. But this is not a night for celebration. It is a night that should have never happened in the first place. And we are trying to make sure that something happens that this will not happen again. Are we happy with the charge? Are we happy with the results? I would say that we must say that if Americans come together, they can achieve things. I remember, as I bring Attorney Crump, as we marched in Selma, I remember reading 44 years ago, a man was asked after they got the Voting Rights Act, how did he feel? And he said, we ain't where we ought to be. We ain't where we gonna be. We ain't where we wanna be. But thank God we ain't where we was. Tonight, we don't know where it will lead, but at least we have a shot at this family having the right redress. And that is because of, first, the courage of Attorney Parks and the battling attorney, Ben Crump.
Reverend Sharpton, Reverend Bryant, all the clergy, black and white, who didn't think of Robert to stand in their pulpits and say, it is about justice, 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 and only justice. We thank you for all those people who went on change.org to sign a petition, not just to think about it, but to do something. Thank you for your unselfish acts. Even though you did not know Trayvon Martin 44 days ago, you just know that a child had been killed, a child who was Sabrina's baby, was Tracy's son, had been killed, and you thought that if this was my child, I would sign this petition. So thank you for signing that petition. And to all those young people, all the young people, the people who marched, the people who stood up, who refused to look away. It is for those reasons, those young people who were Trayvon's age, those high school students who walked out and said that we refuse to stand for this. You know, it was those young people, those old people, we sometimes get complacent and we see so many things, we a little get jaded. But it's the young people who believe, they believe completely in justice, the concept, the idea, the dream of justice. I think those are the people who are sitting here today saying we can make a difference if we just stand for right. If we just stand up, if we just stand our ground, we can make a difference. I have to say thank you as a Florida citizen to our Governor Rick Scott, who came and met with the family that night and said that it is important that we get this right. He said that it's important we get it right. And he appointed Special Prosecutor Angela Corey, who told you how she prayed with the family and said, did not make any promises to us. I mean, no promises whatsoever. Mr. Martin, Ms. Fulton, Mr. Parks, Attorney Jackson, our legal team, Attorney Rand, didn't make one promise to us. Said we would look at all the evidence, every piece of the evidence, and based on the evidence, that she will make a decision, not based on public pressure, not based on anything else, but the evidence. And we always believed from day one that if you looked at that evidence fairly and impartially, that you would have to come to the conclusion that he had to be arrested and that this matter had to go before a judge and a jury. And that is all that Tracy Martin and Sabrina Fulton and their family have asked for. Nothing more or nothing less. And before I bring them up, I do go back, Reverend Sharpton and Reverend Bryant, to the call that has been well documented now when Tracy Martin called after, that Tuesday after, he was told that there was not going to be an arrest. And he was told that. So the reason why we had to protest and file 911 lawsuits and have all the young people, Reverend Brian, and have the change.org was to get to this point. We had to do that to get to this point. And it is because of that we can take a short breath, because we're just now getting to first base. This is only first base. We're on first base in this game of justice, and we have to remain vigilant. We have to stretch our muscles, exercise every day to make it to second base. And that'll be, we got to deal with this stand your ground issue.
Right.
And then once we pass that, we got to get to third base, which is the trial. And then after we get to that trial, make sure all the evidence is delivered properly and fairly for both sides, for everybody. And then only then we can come from third base and bring it on home to justice. That's what we're here. This is only first base. We must remember that. And lastly, I'll say this, that Trayvon's legacy cannot be tarnished based on people doing sick things and acting ignorant and resorting to violence or thinking ill will. We all got to believe in our hearts that we make the system better for what we do, and we got to believe in our hearts that when we choose to do good, and if we know somebody who's thinking ill will, tell them, in America, we believe everybody gets equal justice. Everybody gets a fair day in the courtroom. Whether it be George Zimmerman or anybody else, they get a fair day. Now, we believe in our heart of hearts that he was wrong to kill Trayvon Martin.